Has FAU somersaulted over a lot of other teams as like your most aggravating fan base?
Oh, easily. They just think they are so elite because they made this one run. You won this one fluky ass game where there were 6 or 7 different calls. Everyone were up in arms about, like, what are we talking about? And it's not like a thing where they're like, hey, Memphis, great game. You guys are great competitors. I can't wait to see what the future holds between us. Because if they said that, I would respect them. I don't respect FAU fans. I don't.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Choosing the right sports betting platform can be tricky, as most mobile sports betting apps come with limited betting options and customization, delayed cash out and withdrawal times, and tedious customer support, and no true loyalty program with continuous rewards even after signing up. All of this leads to a frustrating, one-sided experience. So, how do you find the one which suits you best? Introducing Zensports. It combines the best of both worlds, a traditional sports book and a cutting-edge peer-to-peer marketplace. Zensports allows you to accept bets against the house, or use our peer-to-peer marketplace to create your own one-of-a-kind bet and set your own odds without the need for a bookmaker. At Zensports, you get more betting options and a cashback rewards through our unique welcome bonus, continuous loyalty program every month, and referral rewards delivered directly into your account. So what are you waiting for? Download the Zensports app today at zensports.com.
Welcome to Bluff City Bets, a Bluff City Media podcast. Join Daniel Greer and Chase Bobbitt as they give their plays of the day and strategies for success as a sports bettor. Now, let's get to the show.
Welcome to Bluff City Bets. My name is Mark, the daily fantasy football, the Thursday edition of Bluff City Bets. Today, we're going to talk about all the players you need for this weekend to make sure you win some money. If you followed us last week and you probably cashed with all of our player pool that were released. As always, remember, I release a final player pool usually on about Sunday morning at like 10 a.m. So check our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, shoot us a DM on Twitter. We'll get you in our Discord to get you set up. But I release all the player pools that I will definitely have. So today's all the players. They're mostly going to be the same, but just as always, check for injuries, monitor those injuries. There's nobody on our list today I think is any expected to not to play or have any injuries that they're working on or missing time or like that throughout the week. So should be good this week. But last week I know there was a few that we had to change out last minute on Sunday morning because of injuries and inactive. So make sure you check out that list on Sunday mornings as well. Before we go any further, I want to remind everyone we are presented by Zensports. Zensports has been awesome to us throughout the summer and into the fall, going into football season. They have been really, really fun, and they are an awesome new sports book right here in Tennessee. So go download Zensports, the app. Use our code BLUFFC, BLUFFC. Play for some money. I promise you, they have some of the best lines you will see in any sports book. And what's better to have a bet than really good lines? Really good rewards. And Zensports has up to 5%, have 5% cash back on up to the first 15 days, your entire betting volume, whatever you get, it's going to be 5% cash back. It's not like some silly rewards where you have to play in their system. It's just cash. You can take it, withdraw the money. It's as simple as that. I've never seen anything like it at any other sports book. The reward system is amazing. On top of that, you can earn up to 3% cash back going forward forever, as well as get your own referral code like we do, refer people, earn commission that way too. So lots of ways to win, lots of things to like about Zensports. So go check them out, Zensports, download the app, use our code BLUFFC, that's BluffC, when you sign up so they know that we sent you. Let's get into the show. Starting off, as always, let's start with quarterbacks. And last week we had some people yelling at me when I did the show about Justin Fields. Don't worry. He's on the list again. Let me pull my list here. He's on our list again. But let's start with a guy. Probably someone's not going to like the idea of it, but Matthew Stafford. Again, we gave you Justin Fields last week as a guy to get right, as a guy to be able to get you some value for the money. And boy, did he pay off. Justin Fields was amazing last week. And I promise you, if you play Justin Fields in most of your lineups, you probably won. But let's start with Matthew Stafford. This guy's a value play. He's a tournament play. He's going to be a guy that not a lot of people are looking at, not a lot of people are playing. So you're going to have a real contrarian type of play when you play Matt Stafford. And the idea that, again, on those tournament plays is you're going to be collecting points that no one else is collecting. So you have to find contrarian views that you like and want to play. And I think Matt Stafford is right up there. He's only 6,800. So you can put him in a lineup and really afford some of the big wide receivers, running backs, tight ends if you want. You can really afford 2 or 3 of those guys in your lineup while also getting a guy like Matt Stafford that I think is going to pay his value back. Now, you only need like 15 points for him to pay his value back, per price point you have, because he's only $6,800. So you don't need a lot. That's like, 115 passing yards, maybe a touchdown, or less than that and a touchdown. So really, you don't have to have a lot here for Matt Stafford. Philly, he's playing Philadelphia. They also allow 260 passing yards per game and 41 attempts per game. So Matt Stafford's a guy I think is going to get right this week, is a very good value play. Also going against a team that allows 260 passing yards, 41 passing attempts per game. So stick with Matt Stafford. Speaking of Justin Fields, he is that guy. He was last week. Maybe he can't throw the ball. We don't know. Don't care. Still on the list, though. 335 yards last week, 4 touchdowns last week. Was just, like I said, simply amazing. Also, the Commanders' defense, ranked 27th in yards allowed. And all that happening, what he did last week, probably still don't care about his value because it's only 7,700 still. So I think you can play Justin Fields again this week against a bad defense. I don't think he's going to go 335 yards again. Don't think he's going to throw 4 touchdowns again, but he still can get you value at $7,700. I think is a guy you should really look into. Let's look at our next guy. Lamar Jackson's on this list. Has outplayed his value in every single game this year so far. Every week, whatever his value has been set at, whatever number his price he's been set at, he's outplayed that every single week. Only 1 interception through all first 4 weeks of football this year. Only 1 interception, 2 touchdowns last week. $8,400. That's a reasonable price point for Lamar Jackson. It's not going to be something crazy like $9,500. It's not something super valuable like we talked about in Matt Stafford at $6,800. But $8,400 is a very good price point that you can still fit other guys in your lineup or stack him with some guys as well. So I like Lamar Jackson this week. I think he's going to provide, I don't know if he's going to go crazy, but I think he's going to provide the value for what you're paying for. And that's what matters the most. Next up on our list is Anthony Richardson. Bottom third secondary in Tennessee this week. Tennessee's got a very good front 7, but the back has been very iffy at times. He has had 200 yards, 2 touchdowns last weekend, and a rushing touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns last week for Anthony Richardson. $8,300. Again, same thing with Lamar Jackson. It's a very good price point for someone like Anthony Richardson. I think he's going up against a secondary who I think they're going to let him throw. And this Colts-Titans matchup's always a really fun game to watch as well. But look out for Anthony Richardson. I think, again, just like Lamar Jackson, don't think it's going to be like a crazy number that's high. I don't think he's going to throw in 4 touchdowns, but I think he's going to outplay the value that he's at. And that, again, is what matters. Last up on our list for quarterbacks is C.J. Stroud. 306 total yards last weekend. He's only $7,200 and 2 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. So I think he is continuing to be extremely good, and I think he's on the rise. So I think it's a guy that value is a little depressed right now, much like a Justin Fields and much like Matt Stafford. I think C.J. Stroud is a guy that you can get him super cheap, probably a guy that's going to be a contrarian type of play. So he's not going to be a guy that I think's played in a lot of matchups, but he's going to be a guy that's going to give you consistency. Again, 2 touchdowns in every single game the last 3 weeks. So the 6 touchdowns total 2 weeks. Week 2, week 3, week 4, 2 touchdowns each. He's had 384 yards in week 2, 280 yards in week 3, 306 yards in week 4. Just consistency. And at $7,200, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. He will outplay that value and easily going up against the Falcons. I don't think there is any problem with him getting back to what you're going to pay for him. Falcons are a middle of the road type of defense, almost bottom third of the defense in terms of their secondary. So I think that he's probably one of my more favorite plays. And CJ Stroud he would probably be in some of the most lineups that I have across either cash games, tournament plays. I think he's good for both. Let's go to a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll talk about our running backs on the other side.
What's a common criticism that people say about Paul Young or something negative they may say? And what do you have to say in response to that?
They say too young, if they're from the older generation, and the response is, well, line us up and ask us any question. I'm not that young. I'm 43. Right. I'm a grown man. It's been working for the last 20 years.
I feel old. We the same age.
Yeah, we old, man.
Right.
We old now. Certainly there are those that love to throw this card saying that I'm a Republican, which they know I'm not. We too focused on stuff that don't matter.
Right.
Because none of that matters. I'm a Democrat, and I lead with that. But at the end of the day, Democrats been in office, Republicans been in office. When I go to the hood, the result is the same. So what we talking about? Like, who's going to get the job done for Memphis?
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think we need to be talking about. But, it's a distraction that people use because they feel this momentum and energy and they want to figure out how to stop it.
Man, I feel you 100 on this.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the show. Again, you're watching Bluff City Bets, a daily fantasy football edition on Thursdays. I'm Mark. As always, we're going to get you ready for the weekend with our player pool. We're going to talk about running backs coming up next, but I want to remind you guys, every Sunday we have a league on FanDuel. It's Bluff City Bets Beat the Betters. I've won the past couple weeks. Last week was a tough week for me. I think I took third in the week. I think Daniel Greer, our other Bluff City Bets host, whose show comes out tomorrow on Friday, so make sure you watch that. Small plug. He won the league last week, but no one seems to be able to beat us. It's a $5 entry. We play on FanDuel every week. Super easy, super fun. So make sure you join that. We tweet the link out every Sunday morning because it changes every week. We'll put it out every Sunday. We put it in our Discord as well. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you look for that link. Sign up. It's really fun. Just a good, fun daily fantasy game every single week. You can play with us and kind of see our lineup. So for these, for my lineup, it's going to come from a lot of the people we're talking about today. Daniel's lineup is kind of all over the place sometimes. Sometimes he cheats and watches this show and uses my lineups as well. So make sure you guys go play with us on FanDuel every week. It's called Beat the Betters, and we love doing it. So let's talk about running backs so far this week. We got, starting off on the list, Achane, a guy that has been very, very good so far this year. 6 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. Now, a week ago, not last week, but the week before that was 4 touchdowns in, I guess, the Broncos. So that's a bit like, I say 6 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. So it's kind of, it did happen. Don't get me wrong, but it was, kind of a weird thing in the sense that he had a lot in one game. But most importantly, even more than the touchdowns, what's most important to me is he outstat Raheem Mostert last week. So as a guy who has Raheem Mostert in a lot of leagues, I was not thrilled by this, but as a guy who plays daily fantasy, Achane is a guy that we might see a little bit of a change in the guard. He's continuously out-snapping Raheem Mostert every single week, and is a guy that honestly is extremely good at running the football. But better yet, he's playing against the Giants, bad rushing defense, and he's only $7,500. That's the value here. The Raheem Mostert, they still have him priced at $8,000 because he still is technically, running back 1 on the depth chart. He is technically not running back 2, but we all know that what we see, Achane is the guy actually running the football every week and outsnapped Raheem Mostert, not by a lot, but still did it, and had 101 rushing yards last week, 5 targets or 3 receptions. So caught the ball as well, but 2 touchdowns, was really, really good last week. And again, $7,500, I think he's going to outplay that value by a long shot. Next up on our list is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has been a guy that has not been great so far, but last week he got right last week. Last week he had, I think, over 100 yards, 112 rushing yards last week. That was his first game all year with over 100 rushing yards, which is obviously not like someone like Derrick Henry. So that's the first game this year. He is $9,000. Going to be expensive, but he's also playing the Colts defense bottom third in rushing attempts and allowing rushing yards so far this year. And we all know the Titans love to run the football. We all know how much the Titans want to rely on Derrick Henry and how much they want to get that running game going that allow that play action that they like so much. So I think Derrick Henry has another great game against the Colts this week. Let's go to the next running back on our list, Josh Jacobs. I'm aware that Josh Jacobs has not been good so far this year. Pull up his stats. But last week, again, much like Derrick Henry, got on the right side of things. But not like you would think. Rushing attempts, great. Rushing yards, great. Only 58 rushing yards last week. 17 attempts, which is great. That's what you want to see. You want to see the attempts, right? But 81 receiving yards on 8 catches on 11 targets. That's like wide receiver 1 attempts and targets right there, and catches. So had a touchdown on the ground last week, and Green Bay allows us second most rushing yards per game this year. So last week, fantastic game, not only in the rushing game, but also in the receiving game as well. $8,600, which is a very, very good value for Josh Jacobs. I think he outplays that by a lot. I think he's the guy this week I think we see go off for a big, big game. Next guy on this list is Bijan Robinson. We saw him in week 1 do absolutely amazing things. He leads the Falcons in rushing attempts, and much like Josh Jacobs last week, but for the whole year, he leads Atlanta in the most receptions out of any receiver. So Bijan Robinson is RB1 and wide receiver 1 all over at the Atlanta Falcons. So $8,200 for Bijan Robinson. Great value for him. I think he's going to do really, really good things this week. Next up on our list is Isiah Pacheco, this guy is going to be a value running back. He's, let me see, $6,600 so far right now. That might change, but it won't change that much. $6,600 right now, and he is undervalued by a lot here. Guy for tournament lineups. Maybe some people are not playing him as much as they should. Minnesota allows over 100 rushing yards per game. They allow the 3rd most rushing attempts in the league. So last week, let's look at last week for Isiah Pacheco. 20 rushing attempts, 115 yards, a touchdown, a couple of targets in the reception or in the receiving game. The week before that, 15 attempts in the rushing game. The week before that, 12, and week 1 was 8. So we're consistently seeing him continue to rise on the rushes. They trust him more and more the ball at Kansas City. So you have to expect a game from Isiah, but he's a guy that is completely undervalued. $6,600 for a guy like Isiah Pacheco is an amazing number when he's playing against, again, Minnesota, over 100 rushing yards per game. They allow the 3rd most rushing attempts in the league, and a game from last week when he had 20 attempts, 115 yards, and a tutty. Play Isiah Pacheco wherever you can. Last one on the list, CMC. Look, he's good. Like, best running back right now in football, maybe, probably, but he's so expensive. $10,700. I mean, he gets to when people get above the 10,000 range, it's just so hard to get the value back, no matter what they do. I mean, you got to have like a 4 touchdown game like we had, in the Dolphins Broncos game in week 3. You really just, I'm probably fading CMC. I want to put him on here because I wanted to talk about him. I might play him in a few cash games where I feel like he's going to just, again, trade like cash matchups, like head-to-heads. But he's just, again, so expensive. It's hard to have him go. It's hard to have him in your lineups and also fit other people in there while getting the value back from $10,700. So it's the first time I've seen anybody in daily fantasy this year be above 10,000, which happens. But once they get above that 10,000 mark, it's really, really difficult to get value back from those guys. So really think about CMC this week. I will probably fade him in all my lineups that save for maybe a couple head-to-heads. Might try to do a couple lineups where I fit him in there just because he is that good. But again, remember, he is going against a Dallas defense, which is pretty good. They're worse on the road. Dallas is worse on the road than they are at home, like 6 points worse almost, maybe 7. So keep that in mind. So maybe he gets a little traction there. And just awesome. But again, I want to put them on here just to talk about the value when they get above 10,700. Just be careful with Christian McCaffrey this week. Just be very careful. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back on the other side to talk about our wide receivers, tight ends, and defense.
Choosing the right sports betting platform can be tricky, as most mobile sports betting apps come with limited betting options and customization, delayed cash out and withdrawal times, and tedious customer support, and no true loyalty program with continuous rewards even after signing up. All of this leads to a frustrating, one-sided experience. So, how do you find the one which suits you best? Introducing Zensports. It combines the best of both worlds, a traditional sports book and a cutting-edge peer-to-peer marketplace. Zensports allows you to accept bets against the house, or use our peer-to-peer marketplace to create your own one-of-a-kind bet and set your own odds without the need for a bookmaker. At Zensports, you get more betting options and a cashback rewards through our unique welcome bonus, continuous loyalty program every month, and referral rewards delivered directly into your account. So what are you waiting for? Download the Zensports app today at zensports.com.
Welcome back to the show. Again, you're watching Bluff City Bets Daily Fantasy Football Edition on Thursdays. Every week the show comes out right here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of the shows. We got a ton of shows here at Bluff City Media, not only Bluff City Bets. We got all kinds of shows. If you like Grizzlies, Tigers, literally anything, you will like it. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And don't forget that our show is brought to you by Zensports. We talked about this at the beginning of the show. We'll talk about it again. Go download Zensports, the sportsbook app. Use our code BLUFFC, BLUFFC, to make sure you know, or they know that we sent you. When you go sign up, you're going to get 5% cash back on the betting volume for the first 15 days. And then you're going to get up to 3% cash back forever after that. And on top of that, you're going to have your own referral code that you can give out to people and earn commission as well. It is literally like a win-win-win situation here for you guys. So make sure you go download Zensports. Use our code BLUFFC, BLUFFC. Let's talk about the last section, that is wide receivers. Our wide receiver number one, Garrett Wilson. Targets have increased every week so far. Let me see where is that. I wrote these down, but I didn't write them down right in front of me. Give me 1 second. So 5 the first week, 8 the second week, 9, and then 14. So every week, again, just like we talked about in the last segment, you're getting some trust built up with that receiver. Every week, you rely on him more. I don't think he's going to get 14 again, but I think 10, 11 is where he probably is going to settle on for most games. $7,400, and guess what, even better? He's going against the Broncos. And if you're going to get the Broncos, as we talked about in Justin Fields last week, might as well take a gamble on it, because going against the Broncos is usually a recipe for some points. Next person on our list, Tyler Boyd. This is a real value play. $6,200 for Tyler Boyd, but T. Higgins is out, and that's the key. T. Higgins is out this week, and the last time T. Higgins was out, he had like over 100 yards. So Tyler Boyd should see his volume increase with T. Higgins out. If for some reason T. Higgins plays, which he might, I don't think he's going to, but he might. This is not a good play. Do not play Tyler Boyd at all, because T. Higgins will continue to see those targets and receptions that he's always seen. So that's one of those things, like we said earlier in the show, keep in mind for Sunday. Make sure you watch out. Make sure you take a look. Make sure you pay attention to injuries. This is not his injury, but it's an injury to another guy that will affect his value. Next up on the list is going to be Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's kind of hard not to put him on the list. He's a little like Justin Jefferson. And spoiler alert, Justin Jefferson isn't on this list. However, you played him. More power to you. I just think the Kansas City defense is better than most. But Tyreek Hill going against the Giants. Bottom half defense in the league in the secondary. He is top 10 in targets this year. Top 10 in receptions. Tied for a league high touchdowns. Yes, he's $9,400, but he's one of those guys, figure out a way to get him in your lineup, just like we say every week. One of those guys that's expensive, but will be good and is going against a pretty bad defense, and it will pay off. Next on our list, Nico Collins. Houston passing the ball almost as much as the LA Rams. Everybody thinks, the LA Rams passes the ball so many times. 41 attempts per game that the Rams throw the ball around. Guess what? Houston also passes the ball a lot. Almost 38 passing attempts per game for the Houston Texans. They're tied for third in the league for most receiving touchdowns. Nico Collins is. I know that sounds like a lot. It's not a lot right now because there's not that many games. We're talking about 3 touchdowns, maybe 4 touchdowns total. But still, he's clearly a red zone target for Houston, and that's what matters the most. Right now, he's $7,000, so pretty good value for someone who is probably going to see the ball in the red zone, and that's what matters. It's a bit of more of a gamble, but I like the gamble. I like Nico Collins this week. Next on the list, Stefon Diggs. Was amazing last week. I don't know how else to say that. 120 yards, 3 touchdowns on just 6 catches. I know it was a shootout with the Miami Dolphins. It was a great game, but Stefon Diggs is a guy that he's like Justin Jefferson. He's like Tyreek Hill. These guys that can be so good on literally any day against any defense. That's how good they are. But Stefon Diggs, I'm probably going to be stacking him with Josh Allen in some of my lineups because he's that good. He's $9,100, so we're not even talking about Tyreek Hill money. $9,100, and he's got 39 targets on the year total. So that's quite a bit of targets. I want to say it's like 7th in the league for targets Stefon Diggs has, but you've seen what he can do on just 6 catches and like 7 targets. I think that's what he had last week. It was 7 targets, 6 catches. So it doesn't take a lot for him to have a huge day. And when him and Josh Allen and the Bills when their offense is on, it is on. And so I think someone like Stefon Diggs is going to be big this week. Let's do the next person on the list. I think this is the last person on the list, Chris Olave. He was bad last week. I get it. But he's been pretty consistent this year so far. He had 6 targets last week, only 1 catch, which is not great. But what I like about it is that it's depressed his value some to back to $7,100. And I think that is a better value for him in terms of what he can produce. Because even when first weeks 1 through 3, he was good, but consistent, like 14 points a game. Wasn't crazy, right? I don't think he scored a touchdown at all this year so far. But I think this week is a good week for him to get back on track against a Patriots secondary that is not as good as I think people think it is. And so Chris Olave is he's consistent. He's not going to have 6 targets and 1 catch every week. He's just too good. He's too good for that. And there was also one of the balls that he probably should have had was like a really deep ball last week. Probably should have had it for a touchdown. It hit his hand. He just was not good last week. But that type of receiver is not going to be able to play like that every single week. Let's talk about real quick before we end the show. Let's talk quickly about our tight ends and our defenses. I know every week we spend just a very minimal amount of time, but they're pretty straightforward positions. Tight ends that I like this week, Mark Andrews, very good, very consistent, can't go wrong. Other guys I like that are probably cheaper. If you want to use these guys, and that's what I try to do at tight ends. I usually always try to find some value in the tight ends because it can be such a cheap position to be able to fit those guys in at running back and wide receiver. So Tyler Higbee, he's cheap. Tyler Higbee is $5,300 this week, but he gets the targets. Like he has targets every week. And all it takes is a touchdown, right? For him to really pay off his value. He has targets every single week. The other person I like this week is Kmet, also cheap. He's real cheap. He is $5,700 as well. So those guys allow you to fit other bigger players, more expensive players in your lineup. Kmet, same thing. He's cheap. He gets the targets a lot, 6, 7, 8 targets a game. All it takes is a few catches and a touchdown for me to really pay the value off. Yeah, it's a kind of a gamble, but there's consistency there enough for me to be okay with that. So let's talk about defense real quick this week. Ravens, Cowboys, Jets. I like the Ravens. They're going against the Steelers. They're both kind of defensive teams, so you can get some value there. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. Cowboys, we talked about that a little bit when we were talking about CMC. They're playing at San Francisco, but they are just so good, only allowing 10 points per game. It's hard to see them. It's hard to see them like giving up a lot of points. I think on the road, they're giving it 14 points a game. And at home, they're only giving like 6 points a game. So there's a big difference when they go on the road, but they're just so good. Last one I'll do is the Jets. It's a super cheap team. If you want to try to save money and just like punt on the defense position, I'd take the Jets. They're playing the Broncos. Right? The Broncos are just bad. They allow 30 points a game. They're just awful. So I would take the Jets. If you're looking for somebody super cheap, they're only $4,200. So, compare the cheap defense with cheap tight ends, maybe a stack bigger on the other side in terms of the other positions. But that's it for this week. Remember to check our player pool on Sunday. We'll release all those players officially on Sunday, as well as check out our Discord. If you're not on our Discord, make sure you hit us on Twitter and hit us in a DM. We'll get you access to it, where we have tons of sports betting plays, tons of daily fantasy football talk. So it's really fun. Really, really appreciate you guys joining the show, watching the show, sharing the show. So subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Bluff City Bets. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next week.
It's hard to poke a hole in this roster. I mean, it's weird saying that in August, but just looking at the spread of it, the way it's worked out and come together, and what the staff has done, once again, flowers are deserved.
Isn't it like, if you're poking a hole, it's all kind of more abstract thoughts.
Absolutely.
Like, how are they going to gel? If you're just talking roles, they have every role filled.
Yep, we won't know that for months.
Yeah.
So instead of harping on that, some people are going to get fired up about that now. Just looking at what's built and where this could potentially go is pretty cool.
Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
A show over in New Zealand, radio host had Pete Pranica, of all people, on his show, and the guy was saying that a friend of his who's close to Steven Adams said that the Grizzlies kind of mishandled something with his surgery, that he needed surgery the whole time. They said that he didn't. They prolonged it, and then he actually got surgery, and now he's rehabbing from that.
Yeah, they use the word misdiagnosed.
Yeah, that's a strong word. The Grizzlies don't give clear information about stuff, and it leaves room for interpretation.
Right.
And my interpretation is that this story sounds real. Now, I'm not saying this story is true, but it's true-ish. That sounds more realistic than anything the Grizzlies were saying.
When you leave things up for speculation,
hey, that's what happens. Guys like me just put
guys
two
like
and
that
two
New
together.
Zealand radio guy,
New Zealand radio
that.
dude, they come out and say, hey,
and I know
my partner said Steven Adams was way more messed up than y'all thought he was.
And not only that,
yeah,
y'all misdiagnosed that man.
Misdiagnosed. Strong words, man.
Woo.
Strong words.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.